This is Boom Bap Book Club, a music appreciation podcast. On this episode, we break down the Black Album, the 2003 classic by Jigga Man himself, Jay-Z. Enjoy.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Boom Bap Book Club. It is I, Benny. That's Dion. That's Gary. How you guys doing?
Hey.
Chillin'.
What's up, guys? Been a minute.
Well.
Been a minute. Not gonna lie. Been way
Not
too long.
Not a long minute. And,
I'd
maybe
say-
not long enough, I guess.
Since the last time you've seen us?
Just in general.
Fuck, dude. All right. Well, this started off awkward. If you're new to the show, this is a music appreciation podcast. We are old friends who generally love talking about the art we love, the music we love. We all love hip hop, so we usually talk about hip hop. Each episode, one of us picks an album that we feel passionately about, or that we want to learn more about, or that we love deeply. We all listen, we, form our thoughts and come back and talk about it. It's pretty simple, but also pretty good.
Pretty good.
It's like a book club, you might say.
Yes, that's
pretty good.
pretty good. Yeah, but as Gary was saying, it feels very much like a book club. That's why we call it the Boom Bap Book Club. So, this episode was Dion's pick, and he went for one of the biggest albums ever. Right? We don't always cover those
Commercially successful.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of those albums that's up there with the greatest selling albums and most impactful albums of all time. We don't always go there, but when we do, it's usually because it's worth it, and this one is definitely worth it. We're talking about Jay-Z's The Black Album. Yeah, man. All black.
Baby.
Dion wearing all black today.
Well,
Gary, too. Gary's got the
I'm the man in black.
Gary's got the black hamburglar fit. Oh, man.
This is my Johnny Cash outfit, the original Man in Black.
Yes. Johnny Cash with a touch of Kato from the Green Hornet. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what Bruce Lee wore?
Yeah, that's right.
What did he have, like a saying or some shit? What did he say?
I don't know. I'm not going to lie.
He spoke with his feet.
Yeah.
I saw a video this morning of some woman driving with her feet. Does that count for anything?
How is she braking?
Drove with one foot and gas and braked with the other foot. Cool. I will say the video is only about a minute long. I don't know what happened in minute 2, but
yeah, we could take a wild guess.
On the Bruce Lee note, though, I once heard a Bruce Lee quote that blew my mind, and it's, "I don't fear a man who has practiced 1,000 kicks once, but I do fear a man that has practiced one kick 1,000 times."
I like it.
Gary, thoughts?
I guess I fear that person too.
Do you fear the many kicks once or no?
No, the 1,000, one, like, you just gotta avoid one thing, right? They're just like,
if they know that one kick, right? It's like,
stay out of the way of that. It's very a video game.
Just pick up a glass bottle and throw it at them.
Yes, cheesing, bro.
You gotta step out of the way of that.
Anyway,
don't walk into that, bro.
A major digression for the beginning of the show usually doesn't happen right away, but I'm glad we got it out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
This was I'm not going to say it was a surprise. I kind of knew it was coming soon. I knew how much you love this album. So talk to me about it. Where does this rank in your albums of all time? What makes this one out of all the Jay-Z albums so special to you? And let's take it from there.
I think it's part of it has to do with the year it came out. This came out in 2003, right? We all graduated high school. We're all going to college and shit. And this is like, it was one of those albums I was just on heavy rotation. Jay-Z, I went to college in Indiana. So anything to hold on to my New York roots while I'm, however many 100 miles away, would help. And this is, it's a very, even though the production, and we'll get to this, the production were sort of scattered with many different producers, still felt like a very New York album, as I think all Jay-Z albums do. Yeah, how I rank this, I mean, I don't know if I don't know what numerical rank I'd give this album, but it's to me this is one of the flawless albums, one of the greatest general hip hop albums of all time. I think it contains one of the most classic greatest hip hop songs of all time, which in my opinion is 99 Problems, which we'll get into. But 2003 was a pretty big year in hip hop. I know we always say 98 is like when hip hop died, but doesn't mean that there weren't like huge years after that. There are two for us, fans like us. There's two MF Doom albums. There's a Vaudeville Villain and a King Eater album that came out. What was it? Take Me to Your Leader, and the self-titled Vaudeville Villain. Speaker Box, Love Below, 2003.
Really? So good.
Yep.
That might be the album of the year.
That might be the album of the year, or Black Album. I don't know. The Owners, Gangstar, amazing album. So Get Rich or Die Trying, 50 Cent's debut album, which I know how you feel about 50 Cent, but he's still a top.
You could not escape.
MC.
You could not escape.
Couldn't escape it.
That shit. That was like In Sync, bro.
But
that was like Bye 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 by In Sync, but a few years later.
Oh man, put some respect on 50's name, bro.
No, I'm just saying. No. I'm not saying that 50 Cent is In Sync. I'm saying that you could, in the same way that you could not escape In Sync, you could not escape In the Club. You couldn't.
Oh, you talking about In the Club? Yeah, true. Yeah,
like flipping through radio stations, 2003.
Z100, Hot 97. It probably got played on K-Rock, bro.
Probably. And I also think, I mean, that's a great album, personally, I think. But a couple others, Rip the Jacker, Cannabis, another dope album.
That's Cannabis's best album.
Yep. A couple more trap music, T.I. Again, I know you're not the biggest T.I. fan. T.I. is fucking great. And one of my favorite albums that, looking through this list, I kind of forgot this album existed, but I realized this is another one that during this time I was in heavy rotation with me. Chicken and Beer by Ludacris. I don't know if you guys ever heard it or the last time you heard it.
Shit,
that album is fucking dope.
That's when Luda was at the height of his cultural currency, and when he was like a real force for sure.
That album is fucking great, guys. If you haven't listened to it in a while, I recommend going back to it. But yeah, so great album. Going back to the Black Album, and again, just the. We'll get to this about the different producers, and it's there are some samples that I think of albums that have multiple producers, especially in the 2000s. Ben, you and I were just chatting about this in the pre-show. That kind of feels a little bit like feel a little scattered. Right. I don't think this is one of them. I think this is perfectly cohesive. I think the tracks flow well into each other. It's just an enjoyable listen. That's really what it comes down to. It's an enjoyable listen, which I do find to be the case with a lot of Jay-Z albums. Is he lyrically at his best on this? No. I don't think he was as great as he was on Reasonable Doubt. I think that was it. And that was his debut album. But there's something he talks about in one song on this, Moment of Clarity, that talks about that and why that is the case. We'll get to that.
Dion, why don't you break that down now? You were bringing it up, and I'm interested.
Sure.
So I'll put a prelude to that by saying this album, there's no weak spots on it, right? This is not one of those albums skip this song, or that line was whack, or this beat is soft. There's clearly no cracks in the armor on this one. It's really just, you can't say, there's this one whack thing about this album. There's no whack thing on it. Yet it's not my favorite Jay-Z album, right? I think the first 4 albums are probably my favorite, Reasonable Doubt through Volume 3, or that's the era of Jay, Hungry Jay, Rising to the Top Jay, a little more flashy in his flows, perhaps the lyrics hit me a little harder, and I don't know, it's just me. I love that shit, and I really do, really enjoy this album, but this would not be the Jay-Z album I picked. Sure. So talk to me about that line.
I do. Before we get into that, Gary, I just want to hear your just initial kickoff thoughts on the Black Album. Was this an album that was in rotation for you back in 2003? Did you more so discover it while doing listening for this podcast? What were your takeaways? What were your thoughts on this?
it's just unavoidable for this to be to have like gotten deep in my in my subconscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's this was, of course, right? It was unavoidable. A lot of the songs were on the radio, and they each had to have their era, because you couldn't have just like one Jay-Z song played after another Jay-Z song on the radio. Right. You had to like mix some other songs in, but these are all on the same album. We had Encore, Change Clothes, 99 Problems, Justify My Thug. Like these are like you would think that with all the song, like how much radio play these songs got, they would be on like 4 different Jay-Z albums. Like no, they were released at the same time. Just like people had to figure out what the hell to do with them.
Gary, that's
so good.
I was thinking that too, right? That exact thought I was having. Like when you have an album with this many hits, what you get to do is you put out one album, right? And then you have a season. I don't know how long, but like you get to have one hit single, then another hit single, then another hit single, and then the year's done, and it's like one album just fucking made you gajillions.
It makes me think, like, I don't know. This is like a meme. I don't know. Maybe we'll find this and throw this into the video on YouTube. But there was like the cover for the single "Fire It Up" by Busta Rhymes back in the day, right? It was like him at like a I guess a technical like booth, like an audio like mixing booth, and him like turning up the knob on one thing, and he's like making his face like, oh shit, this is fire, right? It's like it's that for every single one of those songs that I just mentioned and others, right? Like on this album, and that's cool. It's not only do they sound good, but they I think had a really just like a different sound, an unexpected sound, where everybody was, you know, who heard it was like nodding their heads, but also just like delighted, like, oh shit, this is interesting. Even if, you know, even if that being true, and also the point that Dion was just making, that this is not his most like deep album in terms of lyrical, you know, performance. Right. Both can be true.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So that last thing you said is a perfect transition to what Ben was originally asking about. So moment of clarity. There are some lines. All right, so there's lines on it in the second verse. Essentially, Jay-Z openly admits that he admits he dumbs down his lyrics in order to make records sell more. And that is, to be honest, as many times I've listened to this album back in the day, that part I never retained that or realized that is something that he like actively did. Is it something that I realized that he did? Yeah, because if you listen to Reasonable Doubt, or even before that, if you listen to like that classic freestyle with Big L, just one of the best things ever put on wax, I think. Like that's classic Jay-Z. But he goes in a few lines from Moment of Clarity in the second verse. He goes, music business hate me because the industry ain't make me. Hustlers and boosters embrace me in the music I be making. I dumb down for my audience and double my dollars. They criticize me for it, yet they all yell holla. If skills sold, truth be told, I'd probably be lyrically Philip Kweli. Truthfully, I want to rhyme like common sense, but I did 5 mil, I ain't been rhyming like common sense. Like, that's it. That's it. So I think going back, Ben, to what you're saying about this not being great lyrically. First of all, no. There are great lyrics, great flows in this. Like, let's not get it twisted. This isn't like, some mediocre.
Like what you just quoted, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Literally that. But like there is truth to what he's saying. It's like, and that line always did stick out with me. Like, truthfully, I want to rhyme like common sense. Did 5 mil, ain't been rhyming like common sense. Like, that's true. Like, he literally...
That's almost like him, like, removing the mask for a second, you know? And saying, hey, yeah, by the way, it's still me. Like, I know what I'm doing here. This is on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, guys, still your friend, still your boy, you know? It's your boy, right? And then... But then what he does, which I think is kind of genius on this album, he literally has an example of doing that, like the dumbing down his lyrics. At the end of that same verse... he ends with, and I can't help the poor if I'm one of them. So I got rich and gave back. To me, that's a win-win. So next time you see the homie and his rim spin, just know my mind is working just like them. Rims, that is. that last part where he goes, rims, that is. You didn't fucking need that. In fact, I always thought that was like mad corny. Like, why would you put that? Like, that just like fucks with the flow.
I think he needed something there. But
I don't think he did. I think that's an example.
Like the guy that explains his joke because it's too deep.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And that's exactly what he's saying, like, about him dumbing down his lyrics. Like, if this was someone who is like a common listener or Quali or Doom listener, you don't need that tag of rims, that is. Like, and he even says it like in a corny way, like almost like extra, like, yo, by the way, wink wink, haha, this is what this lyric means. But you shouldn't need to put that in. But like the audience that he wants to expand to, like he felt that he had to do that. Did he have to at the end of the day? Well, I mean, we'll never know. But I'm sure it didn't hurt.
You need something there also, just for the sake of the verse sounding good. Like if you just stop there, you've got like a couple of moments of like, you know, kind of nothing, right? It kind of begs for something to be there.
I see what you're saying, Gary. In this
That's
case,
not why you did it. I know. Like it was a choice. I think it satisfied both.
Maybe
It was both.
Maybe
It was both.
Because remember, we've also talked about like negative space with these songs, and that would have been a perfect spot for negative space. So this is something that's a specific line that I think I've like subconsciously been critical of ever since like first hearing this album. But now that I like dissect the lyrics and realize what he's trying to say, I'm actually in the opposite. I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of genius that he put that in as.
No, this is just me being defensive because I didn't get it, and I felt like I was one of the one of the plebeians, you know.
But this line, man, and by the way, I heard the line. I like that song. It's a good song, and it's so Eminem. That beat, Eminem produced it, and it's
didn't know that.
You could just tell, like when you listen back, like think of like what's that the big Eminem song from the movie?
Oh yeah, it's very
It has the same kind of crescendo, and then the chorus. It shares the Eminem vibrations of the mid 2000s.
I'll let you finish your thought, but I have something else to say about that. Go on.
No problem. That line I always noticed, right? And I love the way it was written, but also the sentiment behind it, right? And this is the thing you and I.
That's the Benny Dion argument that's been going on for decades.
Since 1997, when we became friends.
Let's talk about it.
Like you and I have disagreed dramatically on this, whereas I take that admission of like I dumb it down to sell the money, like to get as much as I can financially. I dumb it down, which by the way, I have no hate on that.
Sure.
Go dumb it down, make your money. Doesn't mean I'm gonna like it, right? For my whole thing, it's like I don't give, like me personally, Jay-Z has not given me $1. So I don't give a shit how much money Jay-Z has.
Yo, you missed out on the Jay-Z money? Come on.
I don't care.
Jay-Z stimulus?
Right? For me, the only artists I want to see be as successful as humanly possible are the ones that enrich, that when I listen to, I feel enriched and creatively inspired and challenged and all the things, like, right? So like obviously if we're going to break it down, the artists I want to see have been the most successful is R.I.P. MF Doom, Royce 5'9", you know what I mean? The Tribe Called Quest, all of the members of Wu-Tang Clan, because these are the guys that, in my opinion, rarely ever made that concession of like, let's do these stretch of albums that are dumbed down, great music, some hot lines, but like basically sacrifice my creative mind so I could gain more money, like and have more fans and have more success. Like, great, have that success, but like I'm not gonna fuck with that. Right? So like that's not to say I don't fuck, but this does lead me back to like this is an album that I don't go back to very often. And when I do go back to it, by the way, I forget it. Like Dirt Off Your Shoulders, one of the greatest beats of all time. Change Clothes, such a great song, right? The second Kanye song, Lucifer, is that what it's called?
Lucifer, yeah, it's one of my favorite Jay-Z songs.
That song is crazy. But if I'm going to put on a Jay-Z album, it's most likely going to be the earlier shit because I feel he was hungrier and he was more creative. And when he spit something, I'm like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? And even though Jay-Z is not the guy that does that to me all the time, I don't know. That sentiment of like almost bragging about the fact that you've dumbed it down to make more money, it's like, okay, but like that's not, to me, that's not a flex. That's like admitting that there's a degree of letting down the art for the sake of financial gain.
I don't think it's a degree. I think it's exactly what he's doing. I just don't have as much of a problem with it. But at the same time, I get where you're coming from, and I respect you having an issue with that. Like that makes sense.
Too,
but just like it's
I think having released Reasonable Doubt, you basically have artistic license to do what you want. It's a different story if he's holding back on, partner, I'm still spending money from '88 as a way to describe, hey, here's my here's the how strange this time was in the history of my life back in 1988 when I was a kid. It's still bizarre, right? Like that's one way to do it. But once you've done that, you could disco album, kids album, like whatever. Audiobooks, narration, whatever he wants, man.
I think, Gary, to counter that and actually like to play a little devil's advocate and sort of be on Ben's side with this argument, you are right that yes, you can do that once you have an album like that. But at the same time, then there's a Nas who released Illmatic, and he hasn't dumbed down his lyrics since. But at the same time, he's also not been successful though as Jay-Z.
The difference between Nas and Jay-Z is Nas. I wouldn't say Nas dumbed it down, but Nas tried to find a lane after his second album that was more in the pop territory, and it never really landed. And that's why Stillmatic was such a big deal, because it was just Nas going back to being the streets disciple. You know what I mean? So when you listen to Nostradamus or even I Am, which is very flashy, it has some great songs, but those albums didn't land well because it was Nas, who was the streets poet, who everyone fucking heralded as the golden child, kind of dumbing it down. And I think people didn't receive it as well as when Jay-Z dumbed it down. But I think Jay-Z had a knack for linking up with the perfect producers and knowing how to make a hit. Right?
That's the thing.
Nas never, he had those songs, but he didn't know how to make the hit, the thing that was going to stay in the clubs, that was going to stay on rotation on the radio, the thing that was going to make everyone go, "Oh, turn it up." You know what I mean? Like Nas didn't really. That wasn't Nas.
And that's the genius of a Jay-Z because again, that was his goal. I think that's another thing that should be importantly noted here is that his goal, Ben, was not or is not to be the greatest lyricist in the room. Yeah. His goal is to make as much records as possible, still being relevant. Right? Relevancy is still the key. And yeah, he obviously still wants to be, he still wants his lyrics to be dope. But he's not trying to go back to old Jay-Z, at least not all the time.
But I want you to take me through your side of the argument now, D, because you are a little too agreeable, right? so you, right? Usually when we go back and forth about this, right? What I remember you saying, unless I mishear because I'm so wrapped up in my own opinion, which is very possible, is something along the lines of, yeah, but someone making a concession doesn't change me enjoying it, right? You find enjoyment even when the concession is made, and you celebrate it, right? So take me through that, because that's where the disconnect is. I have a very hard.
I know.
Wait. Let me let that siren pass. Hold on. I want to say this, and then we'll.
Whoop whoop.
You still hear it? Do you guys still hear it?
Very faint. No. Very faint, but
okay. So let me say that one more time. So Dion, the thing that you often would, disagree with me on is how when the concession is made, it doesn't really stop you from enjoying it, and you still celebrate it, and it doesn't really get in the way of your appreciation of the music. Whereas when I feel the concession is made, it's I have a very hard time going okay, the concession has been made. This could have been better in some ways, yet I'm going to sit here and enjoy it the same. Right? So how do you view that's where our disconnect is?
I think
and this is a perfect one, by the way, because this is a really great album. Still, right? We're not talking about when fucking Raekwon appeared on a Justin Bieber song, which I'll never forget.
I actually kind of like that song, but I get it.
That never happened. So please take me through.
It's simple. It's Ben, you put a lot of, and this is what makes you put a lot of value in the actual music, which it's not far-fetched when lo and behold, when you listen to music, you put a lot of value in the music. I put value in the music as well, but also in the actual artist and the sort of pride of someone who is gains success, not just musically. Jay-Z, for example, a lot of his success, like, yeah, it is music, but it's also the fashion, it's also the clubs, and 40/40 Club. It's the fact that he's married to Beyonce, who is like like a top selling artist in world history. Like, all these things come together, and like, to me, it's like that all goes, and this is partially what we're getting to about Jay-Z being considered a GOAT. Like, when we consider Jay-Z a GOAT, it's not just necessarily lyrically GOAT. Necessary means for. It's not just a lyrically GOAT or lyrical GOAT, but just like in general an artist. So like, it's a respect thing, right? It's a respect thing. It's a pride thing. It's an excellence thing. And I don't let that take away from my enjoyment, where someone like you would, because again, like, you are just so musically sort of inclined that all you're thinking about is, how does this affect the music? How does this affect my listening? I'm like, no, the listening is not going to be affected. To me, like, the listening is the listening. Like, it's I still very much enjoy this album, and on top of that, I'm also happy that Jay-Z was able to find the general success and the wealth that he did from this. I mean, like, especially coming from where he came from. I mean, like, it's just one of those things where someone in his position, like, a black kid from Marcy Projects, the likelihood of his trajectory ending up where he is now is very slim, right? Right. But where he is now, I think he's classified as a billionaire at this point. He's one of the most recognizable people in the world. And there's just something to that. And yeah, the music is what got him there, what started him there. But like, I think of all that stuff while I'm listening to him. It's like, yo, this dude is fucking great,
I think what it comes down to, Dion, if I'm going to psychoanalyze you for a minute, shout out to our friend Sergi, psychoanalyze time. But, I think you really enjoy success stories.
Yeah.
Right? You love seeing someone get a championship, right? Like, when it wasn't the Knicks winning, when it was the Warriors, you were like following Steph Curry to the top, right? Like, even though it wasn't the Knicks, you were going, man, watching Steph Curry just dominate I remember you telling me, like, just, it's a thing to behold. Yeah. Right? Even though it's not the Knicks.
LeBron James is one of my favorite players of all time, and he wouldn't even sniff playing at the Garden or playing with the Knicks. But like, I enjoy him.
So you love the story, or like just seeing someone become the top of whatever their craft is, like the champion of whatever the thing is that they're becoming the champion of, right? Whereas me is like, if my guy isn't the champion, then fuck that other champion. You know what I mean? Like, baseball doesn't exist once the Mets start tanking, like so I think that's where you and I are a little different, and I think that you take that into consideration, and you also like never, like, I think the defense you always give is like, fuck them, let them make the money.
Oh yeah, exactly.
They should be making money. They shouldn't be making better music for less money. They should be making worse music for better money.
If that's what they want, if that's what their goal is, then yeah, I have no problem with it.
Which there's always going to be a rift between us. And then Gary's out here going like, what the fuck do you care?
Gary's like, what do you want from me?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
fine.
Gary's that guy, the guy on top of the dog.
I do have the two dogs. Look, I think I agree.
We
There's
should
something
recreate that
outstanding.
photo.
There's something outstanding about that. I would love to. My dogs would hate getting on the boat, though. They would hate it. Like, really, they don't like getting in the car. Imagine putting them on a boat. They're like, that's it. Yeah. It's over. I've done it too many times. I've eaten this food. It's over. No, I would take them behind the barn. I wouldn't drown them. So the thing about Jay-Z is his quality control is just, I mean, I've not seen anything like it in my life. I admire it so much. He does no corny shit. Did you realize? Like, look for some corny shit. No, he does nothing. No corny shit.
The one corny thing that he did, we just broke it down, and I think we've agreed that it was on purpose. It was part of the art.
Yes,
so,
exactly. He does no corny shit. Everything he does is actually top notch and admirable. I mean, down to like who, like his very, like, his public kind of relationship with another music superstar is freaking admirable too, and the way that they do things publicly is kind of American royalty now. Very cool. I think that's just part of how he creates music and why he makes the choices that he does. He just has this outstanding quality control that I'd love to understand more. I don't understand a lot about the guy, but just looking at this album as an example, man, quality control. There's only one thing that kind of like so Sarah thinks the very same thing. right? It's she's like, yo, I could listen to this album straight through. It's a great album. You guys said the same thing. I think one or both of you. I could listen to this album straight through, and it's I can't because of one track. There's like this random track about like just details about like him being born. Why? Why is that
the first song?
Second song.
Oh,
first,
right.
Like intro to the second song.
Oh, December 4th?
Yeah, I don't get it. Why is he doing that?
You thought it was too celebratory of himself?
I just... Like,
that's Jay-Z. All Jay-Z is celebratory of himself.
It's just like... Everything else on this album is so thoughtfully chosen to sound amazing. And this is just like weird. You know, why is it there?
Well, I think it's very boilerplate, like rap superstar, like victory lap. Let me tell you about my life. It's definitely not my favorite song on the album. I'm not offended by it, but like it's definitely like one of those like, okay.
Wait, Gary, you talking about December 4th, the song, or the interlude, like for the album, where it's just his mom talking?
I think it's his mom talking and saying that, like, you know, talking about that, you know, there was no pain giving birth to him, like this, like crazy, like, you know, myth of him being born. It's almost like, and I think this is 2003. I'm thinking of when did the Dave Chappelle skit come out? Probably afterwards, probably making fun of this.
It was
with,
Antoine
like,
Walker? No, what was it?
Like it's like I think the premise of the skit was that if you're in charge of making your own autobiography, then like it's gonna be some outrageous shit that's not true. Like when the baby's born, babies got that to like bleep out this like giant, you know, dick the baby had.
Antoine Fisher. It was making fun of the movie Antoine Fisher. Yeah, which was an autobiography. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Gary.
But it's the very same thing.
I think it came out the same year, actually.
You know, like Jay-Z's such a self-aware, seems like a very self-aware dude. You know, with the level of quality control and the stuff that he puts out is just so top-notch. Why include that? I want to understand. There's definitely a reason, right? It can't be that like this is just like I can nod my head to this. Everybody can nod.
But it was a skit as a skit basically. It was the intro to the album. Wasn't a true song. So I guess
I think he's also talking about the song.
December 4th?
I think it's that the autobiographical song with the interludes with his mom, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that like maybe perhaps Gary, that's the one corny thing for you. You know, like I wouldn't say it's I wouldn't say it's corny. It's definitely not the thing that I think about when I'm like, oh, this album has so many highlights. It's not a highlight for me, but it's also I think so boilerplate that like when you're a rap superstar, you have to have one of those songs that tells you, you know, even like I'm gonna go way left field here, but remember when Phife released his first solo album? He had the song Beats, Rhymes, and Fife, which was the same type of thing. Yes. Again, I know that's like way left field for most
but you know
listeners.
what?
But like,
I cannot say that about anybody else but Jay-Z, though. Everybody has had corny shit. But I think with Jay-Z, even this, like, I'm not saying that it's corny. I think it's sweet. You know, this song.
You just think it sticks out because he doesn't have anything else like that.
It just sticks out that like it's a choice, like, you know, it's such a different choice than the rest of the album. Like, why choose to include it? I guess maybe it's a nod to, like, you know, the popular culture of the time, like, whatever. Fine, I'm overthinking it.
I think a little overthinking it, but also maybe that's the one thing. That's the one, you know, the one thing for me with this album, and this is where like this might get into dangerous territory, because I really want the listeners to, and anyone, you know, to know, like, I celebrate this album. I think this album has masterpieces of pop hip hop in it, right? It's pop, it's hip hop, it's like cultural triumphs of songs, like incredible songs on it. But also, I just find that the thing about it for me is that in that dumbing down that we spoke about, in that like distillation of creativity for the or just like, you know, getting rid of the challenge, right? There's nothing challenging about it. I've never once there was never a line on the album where I had to go, wait, huh? You know what I mean? Which I love. I fucking
the rewind
love.
rap. There's no rewind rap on this.
Wait, huh? Yeah. What did he mean by? Oh my god, I unlocked it. Like, there's none of that. So I find it just kind of down the middle, right? It's just down the middle for your listening pleasure, but not to really be analyzed too hard, and a little boring lyrically.
Lyrically, you think? Okay.
A little bit. And boring is such a dangerous word to use with Jay-Z, because I know most people, perhaps more people consider him the GOAT than anyone else, right? I don't know if there's a more GOAT mentioned name than Jay-Z, right? But I find it a little boring, right? It's a rap album, right? The main instrument is his words and his voice, and I'm not captivated by these words. I'm not, oh my God, how did he think of that? And that's what I want to feel when I'm listening to a rap album. And I don't feel that when I listen to this one. But that being said, when Dirt Off Your Shoulders comes on, and when Change Clothes comes on, and when Lucifer comes on, and when Moment of Clarity comes on, I still feel something. The music's there, and it's great music. It's great music. It's just not my type of hip-hop. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense, yeah. And that's something that, like, I've always known about you. Like, this is not,
Yeah,
this is why, like, I think, I always thought this would be a great episode for us, because, like, I think we all have varying opinions, and they're all interesting, and yeah.
There's some other things we wanted to tackle, so take it away.
So yes, okay. So Ben, you were just saying, you mentioned a few songs like "Change Clothes," "Dirt Off Your Shoulder," and "Lucifer," and obviously there's a bunch of others too on this, but that you did find
Super
lyrically,
producers.
or sorry, you did find musically great. And the reason for that is and this goes back to the general reason I picked this album is because the last album we did was Gangstar Moment of Truth, which was a prime example of one God MC paired with one God DJ, and they made
God DJ.
Yeah, exactly. And they made a classic, classic legendary album. So I wanted to transition to like a sample of an album where it's one MC, again a God MC, but with a whole bunch of producers, and I think that goes to why you like those specific songs, and why there's like a sort of why does a more musical feel, I guess, for some of them. So I was gonna bounce back to you, Ben. Like, what was some, and Gary too. I mean, all of us. What are some of your favorite songs in this album, on this album, and who are like some of your favorite producers? I mean, I can go through. I wrote down who produced each one of these songs, if we want to help. But let's talk about that, and like musically, what this album does for you guys.
Absolutely. I'll just start by saying, good headphones, good speakers, put on Dirt Off Your Shoulders, and you're going to be transported to another universe. That beat by Timbaland that might be his best beat.
Might be. No samples either. No samples that I can find.
No. He and this, I don't want to go on. Yes, no samples, but he's the quintessential no samples, but make it your own. No Timbaland beat sounds like the beats these days.
No,
the beats these days, everyone's beats sound the same. I'm sorry. They're all fucking carbon copies of each other. This is like alien. This is like if a Martian happened to learn about funk music, like perhaps, you know what I mean? Like just like another planet, but rhythmically gorgeous. Just like, did you ever see Fade to Black? D?
No, the doc, right?
Okay, it's on YouTube now. I couldn't find it.
I was watching part of it, like the Pharrell part where he's talking about him making his beat and like the Carlitos Way thing. Yeah, but I didn't watch the whole thing. Yeah.
There's a scene, Gary. By the way, it's like a documentary / concert video of his last concert at the Garden. But we should talk about the retirement. By the way.
Oh yeah, no, that's one of the things I got. Yeah.
But his last concert at the Garden, and then also like a behind the scenes making of the album. And there's a scene where it's Timbaland in the studio with all of his beats already ready to go, like playing them one after another for Jay. And Jay's like, okay, yeah. And then finally Dirt Off Your Shoulders, the one comes on, and Jay he's like surprised. He's like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like his eyes light up. He does the
meerkat meme.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, exactly. Like a deer in headlights. And then he just goes to work and he knocks the song out. And I think it was like they make it seem like he knocked it out in one day. So like, this song is special. This is a very special song, and not particularly because there's any lines that make my mind scream. But it's just such a good song. I think it uses. We talk about negative space lyrically. I think the sonics of this song, those high pitched and then the low frequencies, and then there's a lot of just if I try to visualize it, there's deep jet black underneath all of it, and then these vibrant colors popping out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like if you close your eyes and you imagine that beat in your head, I'm thinking of like the darkest black you could ever imagine, and then these vibrant neon lights like kind of pulsating out of it, which is like a sonic landscape, which I think Timbaland
That's
is always
fucked up.
That's well put.
really. Come on, man! I thought that was good.
No,
Ken.
that was great.
I'm fucking with you. You were so serious. I had to fuck with you a little bit.
Yeah, no, but that song, right? I think that
The
if I had
break
to
at the
pick
end of that
one-
song is like,
Oh my
like
God.
just the how like what Timbo does. Like this is a prime example of a song that, on this album that lyrics definitely take a backseat. I mean that's probably the case in most songs on this album, save for a couple. But lyrics definitely take a backseat to this. Like this is all about the beat. This is like it's going back to like what Primo's part in Moment of Truth. It's like as great as Guru
Primo's
was on
the star.
that, like it's a Primo like track album. Like
Right.
that's what it, like the purpose of it is. That's kind of what this song is too.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd say Change Clothes I love because I love the Neptunes, and it's what I love about this one is that it's not really that Neptune sound, right? So like we didn't really dissect the Neptunes yet on this pod, which is kind of crazy.
No.
But like they had the Neptune sound start. Like really, I feel like the world took notice when Nori came out with Super Thug.
Yeah.
In '98. You remember that? Remember Russian? Anyway, so whatever. Doesn't matter.
That's a great beat. Yo, Neptune's a fucking dope.
But this kind of was an evolution of that. Like the Neptunes kind of chilled out, and it was like this fucking like I just imagine like just being rich and walking into walking through
Black Tie
Miami
Affair.
or
This
so-
is a Black Tie
yes,
Affair song.
Yes,
Yeah.
very classy fucking song. Very classy. And I really, and I really love that Ninth Wonder beat too. I forgot what song it was called, but Ninth is such an amazing producer. There's no weak spots in the production.
He did Threat.
There's not one beat. A lot of times, like Dion, you talked about it, right? A lot of times you'll have an album where Jay-Z he didn't set the stand. I don't know. Illmatic, we say, is the first album where it's like, okay, one MC, many producers, right? That was the first time where it's like, oh, you could do this. Like, you don't have to just work with Primo. You don't have to just work with Large Professor. Like, you could get all of the greatest producers if you have the budget, right? But what happened in the 2000s and in the late 90s, as this went on and on and on, right? The idea of like getting beats thrown at you, I think it's a much easier on the budget, right? I think that's why people do it, right? For the most part, is multiple producers because you don't have to pay these producers extra. I feel like it's cheaper. I feel like if it was more,
I feel like the opposite, but okay, yeah.
Oh no. I think it's definitely. Well, I mean, if you're gonna have Just Blaze, Ninth Wonder, Kanye West, Timbaland, it might be more expensive, right? If you're gonna have all of the greatest like this, it might.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
But I think what it introduced, this theory, like, has a lot of MCs put these disjointed albums together where like it doesn't really sound like a project. It sounds like a collection of songs.
Correct. Did they get in a room? Like
no way. Not on this album either. This album,
Wait.
Jay-Z was in,
yeah.
He was in the room
Yes.
with most of these producers for sure.
Yeah.
But these producers did not.
Oh no! As long as there's a common thread. So Jay-Z was the backbone, the common thread, all of that,
course.
right? So like, but
Right.
it's a different story when people are just like you're like going through like a procurement process for beats, right? Which is kind of the way it's structured now, right?
That's
There's
the
like
way
a
it
kind
is
of
now.
funnel of beats, right? And there's like a whole system, and you're expected to
Right.
use this system, whatever, right? There's a whole economy of beats now. But
Yep.
back in the day, right, or currently, if you're an artist and you're working one-on-one with producers, like for instance, I listen to a lot of Taylor Swift these days, okay, and I know how she works with, yeah, exactly. With a producer, she just kind of gets in the zone with this person as you would with a producer, and you're kind of on the same wavelength, and they help you compose and whatever, right? Sure. You're kind of on. This is how you maintain the journey throughout. But I think it's not that she's not pro. I think she's pro. She's very pro. But Jay-Z and people that do this successfully and have that actually flow through are so pro because one, they have enough clout where all these producers are willing to get in the like, I'll make the trip to wherever the hell you are. I'll get in the room with you. Let's make this music, right? One and two, to have that ability to kind of context switch. It's a big it's a vibe switch, right? Change Clothes on that album. That would be my song also as well, Ben. That I would call out to your question, Dion. Like that's the thing that like stuck out with me were like, oh shit, I want to understand like who produced this. This is that's like the standout one to me.
Even like the triangle dings are like just like everything stands out in this song. But yeah,
it's
But
immaculate.
it's a different
that
song, right?
is immaculate.
It's a different sounding song than the song before it, and then a lot of other songs on the album. And as a musician, you have to be so fucking good, right, to be able to just like get it. All right, I'm in the mindset with this world-class producer that flew out to probably do this, create this song with me after I was just recording this other song that required my full attention and creativity to like actually make the most of this artist who's collaborating with me. Pro. I have to say I really admire it.
He does go into like there's quotes from him on his approach to recording the vocals for this song at least, and it kind of touches on what you're saying, Gary. He goes, I look at the tracks like a puzzle, almost like that Matrix screen. I look at it, and the first thing I do is listen to it. I say, what does that track make me feel? Change Clothes made me feel like it was a good time, like a groove. Then after that, I figure out what I'm going to flow to on the track, whether it's going to be a snare or the hi-hat. I figure out what part of the song I'm going to rhyme to, and then I start from there. And then I rhyme to every little part of the song. I try to catch everything. It's an organized freestyle. I sit there and listen to the track, and I figure it out. I think about what I want to say, and then I go do it.
You hear that, kids? Go make a rap album. That's it.
That's it.
That's what you do.
But also, don't try to do what Jay-Z does, because so many people try to do what Jay-Z does, which is like listen and not write. Jay-Z and Biggie are like notoriously like and incredibly people who don't have a pen and a pad. They form the song in their head. But like then there's other people who say they do that, and he's like, I could tell.
It's like let me look at the camera, kids.
I could tell you didn't write that.
You are not Jay-Z or Biggie. You cannot do this as well as they do and did. All right, let's just make that clear. All right.
and that song really, you could tell that you could also very much tell that this was a song the lyrics were written in response to the beat. These lyrics were not prepared and then like waiting for a beat. No, this beat was presented and he's like, okay, I'm going to create to this. And I think you could celebrate Jay for that as well, right? And this album works so well, right? I'm usually not the biggest fan of that thing that everyone does now, which is not work with one producer. I personally usually find the most connection and enjoyment out of an album where there's the artist and then part of the art, like the artist is also the MC and the producer. They're a thing. They're a collaborative team that is creating music together rather than, all right, send me your beats, send me your beats. Because it usually sounds disjointed. It usually sounds, like I said, like a collection of songs rather than an album, right? But this sounds like an album.
You prefer the Taylor Swift method?
I prefer the Taylor Swift method. Put it in quotes.
That's on wax.
Put it on our IG story. Ben prefers the Taylor Swift.
Dion, take notes, dude. The Taylor Swift method is a Spotify playlist that I found, that Sarah found on a mommy blog. Okay, that I read, and then I thought, okay, this is. We both thought, let's try this, and it has a miraculous way to put babies to sleep when they're fussy.
Gary, I think that's probably the most adult thing I've ever heard you say.
Amazing.
I'm blasting Taylor in the car these days.
Put a link to the Taylor Swift method in our stories, please.
It's excellent. Whoever did this scientific research, you deserve a Nobel Prize.
But do you guys understand where I'm going with this? Whereas, like, I think it's almost harder to have an album that sounds this good with multiple producers than it would be. I don't know. No, I don't know where I'm going with this. I think oftentimes it sounds messy, and this is not a messy album.
Yeah, exactly.
Each beat interlocks. Not interlocked. You could tell Timbaland produced only one song on this album.
Yeah.
It's very clear, right? It's very clear which songs Kanye produced. Mm-hmm. It's very clear which song Eminem produced. But for some special reason, they all flow well into each other, and none of them contrast or sound like they don't belong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
By the way,
except the birth song.
We're gonna keep going back to that. Change Clothes does have a set of bars that I think are dope. The Star Wars shit. He goes, let I breathe, Jedi Knight. The more space I get, the better I write. Oh, never I write, but if ever I write, I need the space to say whatever I like. That's dope, man. That's some great fucking writing. And then he goes back later. I think later on, like another like sort of Yoda speak goes, "Do I to you look like a lame?" Like he's just like again, it's just like him calling back to earlier. Like these are examples, guys, of why Jay-Z is considered a GOAT at least. Like, he has the capability of this shit, but like you said earlier, he just dumbs it down. But like, this is examples of like that's some genius writing to me right there. Like, that's
he impressed me a lot on this album with the little things.
The little things,
right?
yes. Yeah.
He has these little moments of shift, of like a way of saying something that it's not necessarily the most creative line. It's not like he said a metaphor that like made my head explode, but it's just the way in which he puzzles the words together is extremely clean and creative and a little unexpected. In the way that Doom, we love Doom because you just never, you don't really know what's coming next. You know what I mean? Doom will say something and then like take a breath and then start mid-sentence. You're like, huh? You know what I mean? But like Jay has these, he'll put like an exclamation point in the form of a word at the beginning of a bar that ended the bar before it. Like, he's really good at the puzzle piece.
Yeah.
And I'll always give him that, right? Because it's clear that it's meticulous, it's thought out, and it's for the listeners. It's for the nerds like me, right? Mm-hmm. No one else is going to really give a shit, but I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah, but also, and like, just like any master, right? This is a sign of mastery. I think we've come across this like almost as a theme with some of the stuff that we listen to. It's knowing when to not. It's knowing that less is more sometimes, right? Like Jay-Z can do all the things. We've heard his freestyles before. We've seen like the earlier albums, right? It's not like this was like a prelude and then he got really good, right? And then he did the other stuff. No, he was already really, really good. He chose to do the things that he did in this album, and he chose to leave out some of the other things. So it's almost like, a good Jedi Master. You don't see them doing the flashiest shit all the time. Right. They're not always pulling spaceships out of the sky and all that. Like, no, they save that for a special moment, right? But they do other stuff that's kind of understated, right? And their control is actually their understated control is kind of how they how a master of anything will kind of show that they're a master.
Oh my God, Gary! Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Man, sometimes Gary just wraps it up in a bow for us.
No, not sometimes. Every episode.
Gary just has a tendency to distill it all into this beautiful like thing. Control. That's what it is, right? That's what's so fucking impressive. His control. He never once missteps, and we say it's all so safe. There's no cracks in the armor. There's nothing, right? But it requires so much control to do that, and it never once is he wobbly. Never once is he offbeat. Never once is he stepping into a direction that could possibly get him hit if he's in a fight, right? He's dodging all the punches in this.
He's Floyd Mayweather, basically.
Yeah. It's incredible, honestly. The album's incredible, Day. It really is. It's, just because it's not one of my favorite albums doesn't mean it's not one of the greatest albums ever, right? Like, I recognize that.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about like the cultural thing that happened when he released this album, which is he purposefully and publicly released the a cappella version of his album, and he kind of just said to the world of producers, remix the fuck out of this thing. You know what I mean?
No.
Which introduced... You don't remember this, Gary?
No, I don't know anything, man. Tell me.
Oh, yeah. Gary, when this album dropped, he also like immediately dropped the a cappella version. So that's how the Grey album, you've heard the Grey album.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
I've seen all these different like remixes of the work. I thought that basically those were direct collaborations. Instead, he kind of built an API, right?
He literally said, "Go ahead, like do your thing, producers. Let's see what you got." You know what I mean? And there was the Weezer Blue album mix. It was called the Black and Blue album, right? Which that one I put that one on recently. It's a rough listen. It's tough, but the Grey album was really fucking cool. Right? That was like that. And had it not been for this then more or less unknown producer making the Grey album, which was the Beatles' White Album mashed into beats with Jay-Z's Black Album lyrics, had that not occurred, we might never have had Danger Doom. Right? Danger Mouse. Yeah. That was his, I think that was the thing that caught everyone's attention. Right?
He's great too. That's another album we got to do is Danger Doom. Doom and Danger Mouse, so good. But yeah.
Oh, absolutely. What do you guys think of the Grey album?
At the time, I'm on record. I'm not the biggest Beatles fan in general. I'm just not. Mm-hmm. But you're talented, sure, Beatles, of course. Day. But what'd you say?
Why don't you like the Beatles, Day?
I don't know. It's not for me. It's not for me.
It's for me, ma.
Even my own mom yelled at me once for not liking the Beatles.
Well, there you go.
But,
it took me, and I'm not joking when I say this, 25 years of my life of going fuck the Beatles to like now being I'm a bit of a stan for their particularly from like the second half of their career, like 66
when the drugs kicked in.
Yeah, kind of when they started doing acid.
Acid,
but I finally was able to like let the guard down and like listen to it the way I would listen to a new artist, and like there's some shit there with the Beatles.
I will say about the Beatles. I used to always say, I hate the Beatles. I wouldn't say I hate them now. Like there's plenty of Beatles songs I love, love, like that's great. But putting on a Beatles album is not something that I would probably do in my spare time. And but the Grey album was great. It was a well put together album.
It was really cool, right?
And it did something different.
Yeah, like the way he used the intro to While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Yeah.
It was a fucking hip hop beat. He turned that thing into a banger, bro. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a very cool moment in time. The Grey album was like a moment, definitely.
And I will say he did get there was approval by both Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, the two surviving Beatles at the time. They both gave their stamp of approval and like, yep, go ahead, do this. It did. I think it got fucked with the record label. At some point,
he wasn't able to make money. That was it became a free shareware type of thing.
But I think that was why it was because they were having issues, because like you would think like, oh yeah, I got permission basically from McCartney and McCartney and Ringo Starr, but you need a little more than that.
But in the way that that Jay-Z really made it very popular to have multiple producers, this also brought about the mashup to the mainstream in a much more serious way. And I hate mashups, right? This was a great mashup, but like usually when someone goes, oh, do you hear the mashup? They put this guy's music over this guy's music, and it's like okay, it's just been so done, and oftentimes it's just like I don't know, like fuck a mashup.
Is that what led to, because then Girl Talk came out around this time too, right? Like the artist who only does mashups. and
I think so,
right? Because I remember seeing. Yeah, I think it was around this time.
We got to look that up. When did Girl Talk drop?
Without even looking it up, I remember seeing Girl Talk at IU Bloomington in like, it must have been like 04, 05 or something like that, and he was just starting at that point. So yeah, I think I would say, yeah, look it up and let me know. But I think this probably had to do with it.
Career. I don't know. Fuck. I'm the worst person to look this shit up. You guys are just like asking a dummy. Oh, okay. His first album, first Girl Talk album is 2002. Okay. So around this time. Right. Doesn't matter. But the introduction of the mashup has become commonplace. It's like it's oftentimes a mashup will be more popular than the original now, and it's not for me. Anyway. This is a particularly opinionated episode.
It's great. No,
F you. I like some mashups. I really like Girl Talk albums. In fact, I think I tried to tyrant Dion once, coming over your place and just like making us listen to one, and you were like, cool, man, it's okay. And I'm like, oh, it's so good, man. I was doing one of those.
I feel like we all had those experiences, Gary. Like I've had that with you, definitely, where I'm like, Gary, you gotta hear this thing, and then like you'll slowly turn the volume down in the car. That's when because
I'm enjoying the conversation with you, baby.
And I've done that with D. Dion's done that with me. You know, we all have that thing that we wish the other person liked, and then it's just like, nope, I can't. I just. I can't. But we all kind of have fish. That's weird about us. Like, obviously, I'm the fish fan, but like, we all kind of have fish. Weirdly,
it is weird. Yeah, it's a weird thing.
Well, fish is an experience, also.
It's
right?
I'm in it for the experience more, but the music. Yeah. I mean, that's just we can.
Are we going next time? Garden? Should we all go?
I don't know. Let's see.
I'm going to have a newborn.
I'm going to invite them to my garden.
All right. I'll get Fish to play your newborn. For Isaac's first birthday. Okay.
Awesome.
Another thing we wanted to chat about is the retirement. So
okay, yes.
So this, so for those who don't realize, this was announced as Jay-Z's retirement album. He was hanging him up after this. This was gonna be his last, and that's probably why he wanted to get all these super producers in the metaphorical room. Obviously, we just talked about that none of them were in the actual room together, clearly. But yeah, just putting it together just for like a one last hurrah kind of thing.
Hoorah.
Hoorah.
Wait, did you, when he announced this, I remember this, Jay-Z's retiring his last album, did you for 1 minute believe it?
No. And here's what I did though think that was gonna happen. That still didn't happen, but this is what I thought. I thought he was gonna retire as Jay-Z, and that he was just gonna be Sean Carter from then on. I had that thought from the very beginning. That is what I thought. But no, as it turns out, it didn't. He released.
He just wanted a 3-year vacation,
basically, but he still released so the next album he released after this, which I think was a year later,
R. Kelly one.
was the R. Kelly one, the second and last time they collabed.
We should probably edit that out.
Why? It happened. He's an artist.
No, I know. I'm joking.
A piece of shit, but he's still an artist.
Fucking R. Kelly, man.
And fucking R. Kelly. He's
a bad
guy, but he's a
reality
talented bad guy.
that we live in. Exactly.
He's a talented bad guy. You can't deny that.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
And then after that was actually Collision Course, which is like a EP basically, which is another one of these mashups we just talked about, the Linkin Park Black
That was
Album
officially released.
That was official, yeah. And guys, that was dope. That was actually really dope. I'd never been into Linkin Park like as artists, but I actually kind of like that. Better than Black Album? Absolutely not.
Can I just say that was the moment in Jay-Z's career where I judged him the most, where I said, "Dear Jay-Z."
No,
Why?
man, look, it really
This was
a
for
lot of
the dollars.
soundtrack.
This was for the
people,
fucking money,
loved
bro.
It. People loved it. Who cares?
People are dummies.
But this is going back to him dumbing down the lyrics too. This is also for him to gain more popularity, get like a whole new audience. Like before that
was
how many
diarrhea.
people were?
That was a diarrhea festival.
Yeah, Ben, we're saying two different things though. Like you're saying that it wasn't great musically. What I think me and Gary is saying is like it kind of doesn't matter because that's not what the point of it. The point was to like gain success, gain new audiences, like just do something a little bit different. I'm kind of with like I as much as I like the album, like I said, I'm not the biggest Linkin Park fan, but I think what they did with the album, I don't think it was bad at all. I think it was okay listening.
I got to high five with people I never got to high five with because of this mashup, right? Like this was my one venture into Linkin Park. And
nose rings, eyebrow rings.
The hardcore Linkin Park folks, maybe this was their one venture into Jay-Z, and they enjoyed it. High five.
Well, let's talk about 2004 then, when Jay-Z sat in with Fish for 2 songs at where the Cyclones played. Now
that's right, with Fish's retirement. Even
that
was more of a real retirement.
That
for
was
other
more
reasons,
right. The Fish was forcefully retiring because of the drug addiction. But yes, that. Jay-Z sat in with Fish and played 99 Problems as well as Big Pimpin', and with Fish playing the music and Jay-Z rapping, and it was very cool. Happened in Brooklyn, Keyspan Park.
Oh yeah. Coney Island, baby.
But you were making a point, D, retirement.
So yeah, I mean, basically, the only other thing I say, so after the Linkin Park album came out, the next solo Jay-Z album to come out after that was 2 years later, Kingdom Come. I personally think it was Jay-Z's worst album.
Not good.
I don't like Kingdom Come. I like some of the tracks on it, but as an album, I thought he was at his weakest.
Really didn't love American Gangster either.
It's funny. Like I guess American Gangster is it is a Jay-Z album. It counts as a Jay-Z album, but it was also a soundtrack album, even though it wasn't really. No. But yeah. But then after that, he came back with, I think the next album he came with was Blueprint 3.
That was a great
which is probably. I got to be honest. As much as I love Black Album, Blueprint 3 might actually be my favorite Jay-Z album.
Is that the one with all of y'all could suck my balls through my drawers? Is that on that album? Because that's my favorite.
Yes,
that's my favorite Jay-Z line ever. It's not clever. It's not a metaphor. It doesn't even make too much sense, except if, like, I guess if the drawers have a fly in them. But like,
yeah, exactly.
But like, all of y'all could suck my balls through my drawers.
Oh no, you know what?
Is that a Kanye song?
It's from a Kanye song. It's from My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which I think also, like, I mean, if we want to talk about Kanye, that album to me is a fucking It's great. Beautiful. Okay. I mean, College Dropout and Late Registration are, I think, masterpieces. They're great. I think Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is up there too. That's a fucking great album. That's such a great album. Anyway,
absolutely. But let's talk about the retirement. I want to say this is another right. Same way, Jay-Z's a tastemaker, right? He made things very popular, right? But I think this is one thing that should never happen again, and it always happens. It just always happens. Logic just did it, right? Logic retired for less than a year, right? Like, that's fucking corny. Like, how about you just don't make an album for a little while? Well, stop posting on social media. Like, don't say, "Oh, this is my retirement." It's it's a marketing ploy. Fuck you and your retirement. Yeah, that's what I say.
So, like, exactly. It's a marketing ploy. So, like, I don't care. Like, the retirement thing, it's like, oh, I don't care. Do I work with them? Am I going to have to, like, cover their shit? No, I don't care.
But do you think it's corny?
What are they accomplishing? It's not. It's just like nothing. It's like nothing. Like,
I think it's corny.
It's not going to get in. Like, who cares?
I care.
I'm kind of more with Gary on this. Like, it's almost, it's like, that's what he wanted to do as part of the art. Like, that's like that who like, it's almost like a who are we to sort of like infringe, is that a word, on like how and his like artistic sort of process. We are
the customers, right? And if you look at him as the product, we are buying the product, right?
You a customer crony.
So I'm just saying, we're the customers, right? Especially when this happened. This was pre-Spotify. Like we probably burned the CD, but the customer who buys the record, we get, right? If I'm giving my money towards this thing, if I'm buying your retirement album and then it turns out you're not retired, there's something corny about that.
But, like, also it's beneficial to, if you're the customer, right, and you're buying stuff, unless there is, like, some kind of scarcity to it, then there's only benefit to you potentially if he releases more things, right?
You know,
it could only be good. Like, it can't be bad. It's not like you're owning, like, the, like, you know, the, like, it's not like the remember the hedge fund bro that, like, bought the Wu-Tang album? And then they released it to everybody. Like, if they did that, right, that would be the same thing as you're saying, I think. But this way, it's like, you know, it's not no dirt on my shoulder if he does more work. In fact, if he needs to message that he, like, has if he needs this as a messaging thing, let's say it's not a marketing thing, but let's say it's a messaging thing because he wants to now shift his, like, he's going to create something. He's a prolific guy. He's been releasing some kind of artistic release year after year or whatever, every couple of years, right? So, and being a participant in other people's creative stuff, right? So he's going to keep making stuff. If he wants to transition to making, like, ceramic sculpture and shit, and this is what he needs to do it, like, hey, I'm retiring, but then I'm like, check out my sculptures. So sculpture collection 2020, I'd be into that in a second. You'd know it'd be good, right? So he could retire. Fine. Yeah,
I think it comes down to me it changes my opinion, I guess, right? I'm very opinionated. So
it reminds
you're telling
me
you're retiring, right? You're like, my opinion of you when you turns out you have not retired is either that you're dishonest or that you don't stick to your convictions.
It reminds me of, I don't know if you guys, so you know, Tom Brady just retired. He retired for like 40 days and then came back out of retirement. And it's like, I'm back, baby. And like, people are like, was that marketing? Was that not? Like, was that trying? Like, it's very similar to what Jay-Z did. But I think, Ben, what you're trying to allude to with buying the album, like, there's a certain value to you buying. Like, you might not have otherwise bought that album.
It was advertised. Jay-Z's Last Dance. This is it. If you love me, you better come get it, because this is it. You're not going to get me anymore 3 years later.
There is a perfect example of how this kind of backfired for a fan with the Tom Brady thing, because the last football that Tom Brady threw for a touchdown was sold for like $1.5 million after that game. And then 40 days later, when Tom Brady unretired, the fucking value of that ball plummeted. But someone bought it. Someone actually fucking bought it. I think that's fucking hysterical, though. I think that's great.
That's hysterical, man.
Not one vein. Yo, I don't know. Do you guys? I know that you disagree with me, but is my point that I'm making, is it registering?
No.
It is registering, and I think that it was useful to him not only for marketing to, like, you know, listeners and customers, right, in a sense, but also if you're going to get a bunch of producers that are at the top of their careers to come and join you and give you their best material that they're saving. I don't know if he told them the same thing that he used for the marketing of the album, but like, I mean, that's maybe a little bit of a like cynical way to look at it, but that's one way to get people to give you their very best work, right, and really plug into the process if they think that this is their last opportunity to work with you and they admire your work.
Right. And I hear that, Gary. My honest opinion is that he intended to retire. This is just the truth. This is really like my analysis. Is just probably what I think happened is he intended to retire. This album made him so much fucking money. He had a nice 3-year cool off, right? And then he said, you know what? I don't want to be retired anymore. I want to make another album, and I want to make a lot more money. And then he did. And I think that's what happened, right? I don't think the album was dishonest, but it takes right? The Black Album is no longer his retirement album. It's not exactly like Jordan, even though he mentioned Jordan wearing 45 on this album.
Yep.
When Jordan came back, it like lost the mystique a little bit. It was like incredible.
What the fuck are you talking about? He won 3 more championships.
No, I'm not. That's not mystique. That's not mystique, right? It kind of just leaves you scratching your head a little. And Jordan explained it in the documentary why he left, right? There is understand like it's clear why he left for a little while. I don't know. It changed it. It's not Jay-Z's last album, and it was supposed to be. So there's something weird about it and then
here's a question.
So, but like this is the thing. So many artists have done it since. I'm retiring. That's it. Hey, I'm back, baby. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's a WWE like wrestling move, right?
Yeah.
Like totally. Yeah. It's a bit of storyline, and it's silly. It's not real plot line.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever. But are we better off that he did unretire?
Yes. I think
100%.
I think Blueprint 3, if it had it not just been for Blueprint 3, right? I didn't love Magna Carta. I thought 444 was really good.
That was great.
Really,
Magna
really
Carta
good.
was great. And how I feel about the collab, him and Kanye. I think that was a fucking great album too.
Another, like another moment in hip hop where everyone had to
It's a moment, yeah, exactly.
behold.
Just, yeah.
So
good.
Of course,
So
we're
good.
better off that he came back. I'm just, you know me. I'm just judgmental.
So I let everyone, I let you guys have your piece and talk about that. And there's one thing I'm going to counter, or a few things I'm going to counter with this. Ben, you said that you always thought this was that this actually was supposed to be retirement, and he came back a few years later. I think there's evidence that that's not the case. And one of them is the fact that he released again the R. Kelly album.
I think that was
year
probably
later.
pre-recorded. I
No,
think they had that in the chamber.
Okay, but that's not even my biggest piece of evidence. There are multiple allusions on this album alone about him coming back out of retirement, and that this actually is not being his retirement album. There's all right. So on Encore, the last verse, if you listen to the entire last verse, basically it's just trying to say the message of that last verse in Encore is like, you want more of my time and energy, then pay me. Like that's pretty much what it is. Like even his album where he claims that it's last for retirement, like that's like I think it's pretty obvious that he really had no plans of retiring, and like he tells you on this album, hey, I'm gonna unretire. Bringing up Jordan with wearing the 45, that's on this album. Like he straight up says it. Let's see, Allure, right? Which Pharrell, if you look at from the doc, Fade to Black, when Pharrell's talking about making the beat, he tells Jay that this is more of a the vibe of this is like Carlito's Way, like the end of Carlito's Way, where it's just like the one last job, I just want to get it. I think it's actually more like in Jay-Z's head, he was thinking of another Pacino movie. I think he was more thinking of Godfather 3. With just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Like I think if you listen to this album again and really listen to the lyrics, it's all over this album that he's clearly not going to retire. I don't think that was ever a thing. Like at the time, again, like the extent of my thought was that he was going to retire as Jay-Z, come back as Sean Carter. But again, and doing a deep dive in this and really listening, I don't think that was ever the case. I think I like the case of him actually retiring. I think that was like an artistic theme of this album was retiring, and that's about where it ended. To me. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think you're probably right. Now that, like, especially the Jordan 45 line, that if there's ever an allusion to the fact that you're not retiring, you mentioned Michael Jordan wearing 45, right? And you're probably right.
It's all over this album.
Yeah. So then I respect it even less. That part of it. that part of it, honestly. But again, you know me. I don't. For me, music is art and expression, and everything after art expression and tone and feel when it comes down to marketing and perhaps sacrificing some of your taste for larger gain, all that stuff. Every one of those decisions is like a check mark on the meh list for me, or corny, right? So like that's it's just not my album in that way. But again, I think if we're like, I think we're nearing the end of this thing, and like, if you want me to give my last licks now, and is there anything else you really want to tackle?
Yeah, I kind of just wanted
to
just before we get out. I think we'd be remiss to not mention 99 Problems.
Okay, let's talk about it. Rick Rubin, go ahead. Yeah.
So this is again one of many collaborators, and this is Rick Rubin, who, for those who don't know, Def Jam head honcho guru,
Perhaps
guru of
the architect, right? The architect
Beastie
of
Boys?
Beastie Boys,
he discovered
Run
Beastie
DMC.
Boys, Run DMC, yep.
He's the right. He's the architect of that skeletal, like, right when hip hop went from being disco instrumentals to being crafted into this new sound in the mid 80s. It was his technology and mind that truly guided the sound of hip hop in the mid 80s.
And Gary, he's a tree wizard.
He is such. Yeah. He is the tree wizard of tree wizards, and he's been a tree wizard since the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the biggest rap hits of the 2000s. It's still a song. I mean, granted, Dirt Off Your Shoulder, and I mean a few songs from this album where you could put it on now and it will still feel I don't think it's played out. Like, I think you can put on 99 Problems anywhere, and like people will, like, it's like he comes in with that, if you having girl problems off a bat, he's like with no beat, no lyrics, just Jay-Z's like, crowd goes nuts. Like, it's a go-to karaoke song for me.
You know why? Yeah. You know why it lasts so long, D? You know why it's still like it's because it's not of its time, right? So like, even Dirt Off Your Shoulders, the sound of Dirt Off Your Shoulders is 2003.
Yeah.
There's, you know what I mean? But the sound of like the sample they use is a guitar, an overdriven guitar, and
it's
a hard
a
hard-hitting drum. So like, the sound is not of its time, so it's kind of out of time, and therefore it doesn't sound dated when you put it on now, because it didn't sound new then. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was like out of time.
I mean, he was literally using the I guess a big 80s song, the big beat, like that's the drum, like it's a Billy Squire song. I got the big beat, like that is that main drum sample. So that's a very good point, man. That does make sense. Rick Rubin said that this is the one. We're talking about Jay-Z writing his lyrics. He actually, so I want to deep dive a little bit into the second verse.
Okay.
Because the second verse, Rick Rubin said this is the one verse he's ever seen him write down. Like, he's never seen Jay-Z write a verse.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
And it makes sense if you go back to that second verse is fucking powerful. And there's literally, and Gary, I feel like you'd appreciate this. There is a 20-page legal analysis of the second verse by a lawyer. On like the actual legalities of like Jay-Z's claims in that verse. It's very visual. Obviously the video, by the way, was supposed to be directed by Quentin Tarantino. Let's see. In 2011, Southwestern law professor Caleb Mason wrote an article with line-by-line analysis of the second verse of the song from a legal perspective, referencing the Fourth Amendment in the United States Constitution, citing it as a useful tool for teaching law students search and seizure law involving search warrants.
Wow.
Terry stops racial profiling and exclusionary rule and the motor vehicle exception. He writes that some of Jay-Z's lyrics are legally accurate and describe prudent behavior, like when identifying when police is asking for consent to search, specifically asking if one is under arrest and complying with the police officer rather than fleeing, which Jay-Z talked like he thought about for a second, but realized like that's not the smarter thing to do. Apparently, this is based on a real incident that happened where he was riding dirty and got pulled over and like kind of talked his way out of it. He did note though that
the canine gets you, man.
Canine
and checkmate.
Exactly, mate. He did say that there are some lyrics that are legally incorrect. The driver saying that the driver can refuse to exit the car, and that's something that is not legally accurate. If you can't just refuse that, especially if you're black. He said, in fact, police only need probate cause to search a car. They don't need an actual warrant. But like there's a whole like laundry list of things from this article. I mean, I read part of it. But just the fact that exists for this, like literally a law professor is using this to teach in a law class is incredible.
And D, I've heard that verse 8 billion times, right? And it's such a good verse. And if you were to say, hey, Ben, of all the Jay-Z verses, which one did he take his time to write down? I never would have guessed that one. But now it makes sense because it's so meticulous. And the way in which he's like telling a story from his own perspective almost in real time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I could see that maybe like this is not something you could just kind of put, form up in the old noggin. You got to kind of graph it out a little. Yeah,
exactly.
Also, I love this verse, Dion, because it puts you in like, I think Jay-Z puts you in like in his mind. And that's rare because he, I think that he's such a cool dude. He's such a cool character. He's the Fonz. And understand his reasoning as he's thinking through a problem in this kind of really well illustrated way, right? It's really vivid. It's cool. You get inside his head. It's nice.
Well, I'm glad we tackled that day for sure. Great fucking song.
It's a great song. It's funny. Like I was talking to Kate about the song. She's like, yeah, like it is a great song, but like I always get kind of pissed because like it's literally like the chorus is I got 99 problems with a bitch ain't one. She thinks it's like kind of derogatory towards women. Kinda? It's actually not. If you look at the verses, when he says the word bitch, he's actually never referring to a woman. Bitch means a different thing in each verse. The first verse, it's critics. He's talking about critics as little bitches, basically. The second verse is the cop. It's the dog. Sorry, it's the police dog which is literally a bitch. That's the name of a female dog. And then the third verse, he just talked about like some weak dude that you need to check and he needs to like kick his ass because like he was just being a little bitch.
A little bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Being a little bitch. Exactly. So it was funny. I didn't realize that at the time, but like after she said that, I went in. I was like, oh wait, is that? I mean, look. Could take offense as much as you want. Like, at the end of the day, like, that is kind of what it sounds like. And to boot, it is something I don't think we have time to get into. But Jay-Z, I know it's always been said that Jay-Z, like, take a step back. Some people call Jay-Z a biter. I think it's more homage. But there's a lot of lines, especially in this album, that Jay-Z, like, the lines that I didn't even realize. Like, the line about, the rings and things he sing about, bring them out. It's hard to yell with the barrel, sing them out. That's a Biggie line. Yep. I didn't realize that. I did not realize that.
You didn't know that?
I did not. But even the line here that if you having girl problems, I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. That's an Ice-T line from like the late 80s. You know. Yep. I think Ice-T meant it as derogatory towards women.
Right.
But Jay-Z, I don't think meant it in. I don't think. I'm pretty positive he did not mean it in that way here. Take it however you want, but
he very well the fourth bitch on his list of things that aren't his problems very well may be his version of a woman. But that being said, I think if derogatory, misogynistic lyrics offend you, you probably won't like most hip hop. Period. Right?
Hey,
there's so much bitch talk in hip hop. There's so much referring to women in a negative way and in hip hop that even the greatest artists of all time say that stuff. And if that's not your thing,
I mean, he literally says in the first verse, if you don't like my lyrics, you can press fast forward.
Right. Yes, you can, but also like it is offensive, and that's part of the point of it, and that's part of why it's effective. And it is making a bunch of people, who are like rapping along to the song, millions and millions and millions of people who are just saying shit that sounds good. Right, saying the word bitch in this way, which brings to mind the derogatory version of it, right? And
right,
it doesn't normalize it.
Because Gary, you're right.
It's all true.
They may
like
not
also,
realize.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
But also he realizes that like, oh, this recalls the derogatory version of the word. Yeah. Of course, yeah.
He knows he's of course.
Whatever.
Yeah.
that's the choice that he made. Like,
that is, yeah.
I think some.
I'm not going to try to in my mind like. That is the choice, and maybe there's a deeper kind of musical analysis piece of it. But like most people are going to be like, "Yeah, bitch,
yeah, I got you." All right, Gary, that's well put. That makes sense. I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah, I'm on some. My whole thing is, it's fucking
bitch.
It's bitch. It's music. It's music. Like it's art. Like art can be offensive. Let art be offensive.
Go on, man.
No, that's it.
The only last thing I'll say about 99 Problems, if it's remixed into I think one of the greatest diss songs ever. I don't think you guys heard it. Have you heard the T.I.
Yes.
99 Problems? Yo,
It's very good. You
yo.
played it for me. I remember you being like, "Yo, I know you don't like T.I., but listen to this shit." And
was I wrong?
Whoa.
Yo, he went in a little flip. Gary, if you haven't heard this, just look up after this. Look up 99 Problems by T.I. It's the same beat. Like it's a remix. Like it's like an unofficial remix or whatever. But he uses the same beat for 99 Problems. But he's dissing Lil Flip, who had I think he had like some innocuous. Like I don't even think they really had a beef, but I mean they had a beef, but I don't think it was as like serious as T.I. lets on in the song. But this is like hit 'em up level. Like it's fucking dope. Okay. Yeah, that's all. That's it for 99 Problems.
Can't wait.
Can't wait. Yeah, I think I think we hit on a lot. I mean, look, there's the
hit 'em up.
The only thing. Fuck you, man.
That was good. Good callback. That was like a right away callback.
That was great. So you want to get into the last licks?
Yeah.
Right.
So you want to do yours and then me? Then
I'll
Gary?
do mine. Ben, you do yours, then Gary end with yours and pick a song and not Taylor Swift. Pick an album, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, the last licks on this again. It's one of my favorites. It definitely is poppy, for sure. But like in a good way, if that's like a good way to describe it. Like it's not it's not an album. Let me start over. It's an album that I haven't listened to straight through in a while before doing this listen, but like I wouldn't not put it on. Like Ben, you said you have like really no desire to put this on in the last like several years or whatever. The only reason I haven't is just because there's just a lot of other content and I'm just listening. But like I was happy when I picked it. I'm like, all right, great, I get to like revisit this album. I think I do think it's a flawless album. I do love the December 4th song, Gary. Sorry, but
good.
But yeah, like and like I said, like I think my main takeaway from it is like I really don't think it was a retirement album. I think it was, if anything, it was maybe just like getting to like the next chapter of Jay-Z's career, if any. But yeah, I mean, I could put this on forever. I think Kanye, by the way, his debut album came out just a few months after this, so that kind of ushered him in. He's one of three producers on this to have multiple tracks. Most people, it's him. I think Just Blaze has 3 and Pharrell/Neptunes has 2. Kanye has 2. So it started that. I feel like it's just like it ushered in like a sort of new era of hip hop, whether that's good or bad. Time, I guess time has told. I love it. I don't think Jay-Z is a GOAT lyricist, but I don't argue whenever I hear people say Jay-Z is the GOAT in general, and it's because like lyrics aren't the only thing. It's his control, like Gary said. His lyrics are part of it. His choices for who to work with, when to do certain things, when to release, everything is calculated. Again, even like the retirement part, like that was always part of the plan, I think. So yeah, I mean, 5 mics, I guess is what we'll say. And one other random thing that I meant to say before, this is really random. Moment of clarity. Eminem produced. Do you notice that it sounds like a song on a Nas album that we just did on Godson?
Was it the Carry the Cross?
Carry the Cross.
Same producer.
Also Eminem. Yeah. I kind of forgot about that. So it's a little tidbit I've been holding on to all episode. I had to get that in before we got out of here. But yeah, Jay-Z Black Album. Go listen to it and go listen to 99 Problems, the T.I. disc when you get a chance.
Yes, absolutely. D, thank you for picking it. Honestly, I'm not even going to do too much final thoughts on the album because I gave so many already. What I will just say is that there are albums that are not, that when someone puts it on, I go, fuck, can you turn this shit off? And that's a lot of music for me, right? A lot of music. I am plagued with being a snob. It's not a good thing. I don't like wear it like a crown. I'm tortured by it, right? Because someone puts on some music and I often die inside when I don't like it. This is not that. You put this album on, I'm gonna be thrilled because it's great music. So like, excellent album, right? Nothing bad to really say about this album. There's like, I really do agree with it. There's not one whack choice musically on it. It's all kind of just perfectly blocked out. It's excellent production, great songs, love it, right? Goat talk, right? We didn't really go too far into it, but what I will say to close this out is, if your criteria for GOAT, if one of the things in your checklist for GOAT is success, cultural currency, the championship belt, so to speak, of record sales and dominance and relevance, then there's no other GOAT. It is Jay-Z. Jay-Z is, if that is how you calculate who is the greatest of all time, then Jay-Z is the greatest of all time, hands down. No debate on my end. Anyone who counters that by saying Eminem sold more records, fuck that shit. Jay-Z's the GOAT, right? Like, Eminem sold more records because of the color of his skin. That's it. So, like, Jay-Z is incredible in that way, and the highest level of excellence you can achieve. It's one of the most successful humans ever. So, mad respect. Thank you for picking it, D. Love you guys. Yeah.
We didn't talk so much about how this is a great driving album. And that's one of the things that I love to do when listening to Jay-Z in general, but also this album, like, through and through, except for the birth song. It's just like, it's such a New York driving album too.
Yes.
This is such an FDR drive, like, time your
late night.
Time the bumps, right?
I was literally listening to it last night coming back from my sister's place in Jersey. It was perfect coming out of the late Holland Tunnel. Like, yeah, driving
what you drive. I bet you loved it, right? Like, that was a fun drive. I'm sure it sounded great in your car too.
Bose, baby.
Yeah, that's cool. So I really enjoyed that part of it too. I wonder if like Eminem and these kind of super producers are kind of in this mode where they've created enough good stuff where they could just have an AI just add it to different new things, kind of like The Rock. Like, I don't think The Rock is in any new movies anymore. I think there's just like recycled like footage from The Mummy.
Yo, Gary, there's something to that, because The Rock wears the same shit in all his movies. Have you noticed this? So it's the tan shirt. Yeah. Yep. Gary, there's something to that. I don't think you're wrong.
He's actually just like a very charismatic guy, and he's like, beautiful, like big, built guy, and people don't realize he's actually saying the same things over and over again too. It's actually the same. It's actually the same footage in Skyscraper as Jumanji and all these other. It's all the same stuff, and nobody notices, right? Like, only on some obscure rock podcast 20 years from now are they going to notice that they remixed the beat, it's the same beat.
and when somebody does say something, they get disappeared.
Yeah. All right. Well, last step, guys. Sorry. All right. So for the next step, if we make it, my recommendation for album to listen to, it's Run the Jewels. Which album do you think I mean? Which one do you think I mean?
I'm gonna think you say you mean the first one, right?
Yeah, I do mean the first one.
Excellent. Amazing.
Fucking Gary, thank you. I've been waiting for one of us to pick Run the Jewels, man.
Yes. Amazing. Okay. Well, Gary, thank you for that pick.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you.
Oh, wait, sorry. Before you go on, that we just said one to the camera for audio. That's Run the Jewels 1.
Oh yes,
just for the audio.
Run the Jewels.
The first one.
Part one.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you to the listeners. Thank you so much. If you got all the way through, if you dig this, a like and a subscribe goes a really long way for us. We're not just saying that to be little bitches. It actually it helps other people like you find us. It boosts the likelihood of someone who is into this type of shit finding us. So if you like and if you hit subscribe, we really, from the bottom of our hearts, appreciate that. However you listen, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, whatever it is, if you support us, it really does help us. I really want to thank our producer Nate for everything he does, all the new logo, the website, everything. He did so much for us, and he continues to do so much for us. We love you, Nate. We want to thank our man Fred, the Red Walrus. All those intros, outros, all those beats. Awesome producer. You could find him on Bandcamp. He's involved with a lot of other artists, but his solo stuff, if you download it, you'd be supporting a really creative, awesome artist, and we would appreciate that too.
And you get some ill beats for your party.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Honestly, he's dope. He's dope as fuck, and you should support him. So go listen to Run the Jewels, the first album. Man,
so excited.
Fuck,
so excited.
Yeah, like
see them in concert next month too. Oh, yeah.
One of the best groups out for sure. So go check them out, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.